We put this aftermarket suspension on our Toyota FJ Cruiser 7 long years ago. In this video, I'm going to be tearing it all down, inspecting all the moving parts for wear and tear, and talk to you about how everything has been performing for us. This right side tire is showing a lot more wear than the left, so that tells me that at some point we knocked this thing way out of alignment. Let's get started. We've had these sway bar disconnects on for about 5 years now, and just recently, a few weeks ago, I posted a review video on these. I'll put a link to that video down below in the video, and we'll remove it at the bushings on the frame. I've already got this completely disconnected on the other side, so this should just come right off. Now this piece of aluminum right here, that's our sway bar relocation bracket. We have to run this to move the sway bar forward enough to clear our larger diameter coilovers. When we put the new suspension on, I also replaced the tie rod ends. These are just Moog brand from Napa. And when I put them on, I coated this sleeve right here with Never See, so hopefully that's going to come loose for us. Before I take this nut off, I'm going to see if this is indeed loose. Oh, holy crap. Oh, it's loose. That's loose. I see Never Sees in there, so hopefully this will turn. Oh yeah. My alignment tech is going to be happy about that. Excellent. Now, I had put Never Sees on this taper joint here when I installed them, so hopefully it'll come right out. There she goes. There's some Never Sees still on there, but it didn't help. Okay, about 7 years, a little over 50,000 miles on this, and there is no up and down play at all in it, so that's good to go. I'm happy with that. Now I can get this coilover out of here. And there it is. These are from ToyTec lifts. They're the Boss 2.5 models, 7 years old, 50,000 miles, and they've been doing okay for us. We have the heavier springs to compensate for our steel bumper and winch up front. Yeah, they've been doing fine. Now we do have ToyTec's Aluma series 2.5s on our 4Runner, and they produce a much better ride than these do. These ride okay, but they're a little harsh on the roadway. They do great off-road, but yeah, like I said, the Aluma series I think is far superior to these. I don't know what brand of shocks these are. ToyTec uses other people's shocks built to their specs, I guess, and I don't like the shocks themselves on these, but like I said, they do fine. We're not going to replace them. We still have plenty of life on them. They're not leaking at all. All the ends look great. So yeah, we're just going to keep on going. Now these are rebuildable, but I don't see a need to rebuild them yet. They say they can go 80,000 to 100,000 miles, and we only have 50 or 60,000 miles on these, so they're going to go back in. These upper control arms are from SPC. They're very popular. These earlier versions did have some issues with them though. There was a small, very small a number of people who had problems with cracking up here. We have, as far as I can tell from here, we have no issue with that at all. Others said that these bushings wear out really fast. We'll find out when we get ours off to see just how worn out they are, but I don't think they are. Now the ball joint it was, not anymore, they've fixed it since then. This was a major problem. We had ours on for maybe 20,000 miles, and I noticed that there was a lot of play in it. The original ones were not greasable, by the way. So I got a hold of ToyTec, and they sent us out some new ball joints, and we sent them, our old ones, they sent them to SPC. SPC did say that they wore out prematurely, gave us the new ball joints for free, and these are greasable. And so far, I'll know when we get this off of here, but I think these are working just fine for us. One thing I want to mention really quick are the bolts that hold the brake line and up here the ABS line on are crap from the factory. So do yourself a favor, when you're working on this, go out to the hardware store and get a hardened bolt to go into the spindle here and into the upper arm. The factory ones, in our experience, they snap off too easy. So get yourself some replacements. You can see that ours are snapped off and everything is held together with zip ties. So I'm going to cut those zip ties off. There we go. That was easy enough, huh? And some people are always afraid that this is in a slot that goes back and forth, this upper ball joint, that's how you adjust the alignment. Some people are afraid that this slides back and forth, but we've never had that on both this one and the 4Runner. We have these, and we've never had that happen. And that ball joint feels really nice and tight. Yeah, there's no play at all in that. Awesome. Yeah, about, what, 40,000 miles on that ball joint, and it's good as new still. Taking that bolt out the rest of the way from up top, hopefully. Not the easiest thing to get to, but it will come out. It got in there. It'll come out. Oop, there goes the light. And there's the bolt. And there is our arm. And these bushings look as good as new. There's nothing wrong with these bushings at all. I took a really good look at this arm, make sure there's no cracks up here at the welds or anywhere else, and this is looking pristine almost, I would say. I did go ahead and clean up these surfaces. There's a bunch of crap and rust on here, so I took a wire wheel, cleaned it up, because this is where, this will be the top, and this right here is where that washer and that big nut from the ball joint will slide back and forth to align it. Once you tighten it down, it won't move at all. But there was a bunch of rust on here, so I wanted to make sure that that was cleaned off really good, so it has really good clamping power on it. And on the bottom side, this is where that alignment washer goes. It slides back and forth in this groove here. And again, there was a bunch of crap, scale in here, so I cleaned it up too. While I was at it, I popped these pins out of the bushings. They come out fairly good. And put some high pressure graphite grease on those pins in the bushings. Maybe that'll prevent some squeaks down the road. I don't know. Seems to help. So now I can put this back on. There we go. The bolt is in. Now I'm just going to snug this up a little bit I'm not going to take it to full torque because we'll have to do that once it's on the ground and there's all the weight of the vehicle is on it. So that will hold it there. Now we're going to try to get a full 4 degrees of caster in this during this next alignment here. So I moved. The beauty of these SPC control arms is you can adjust that right off the bat with these ball joints. So you can twist it like this. I'm going to put it right like that. And then your star washer, or whatever you call it, goes on there. Then we can bring it down. Put the ball joint through. There we go. And then make sure that that piece, that little star washer thing, is riding in the groove in the bottom of the arm. Put that big washer on. Put the big nut on. Yeah, just make sure that that washer that slides through that groove is in the groove. Otherwise, you're going to be in big trouble. Now, I'm not exactly sure what position this is in according to the chart that comes with these arms, but when I find out or figure it out, I will put that in the video description below. When we put this suspension on 7 years ago, the FJ already had 200,000 miles on it. And like most of our Toyotas of that age, the lower control arm cam bolts right here were froze solid. The only thing we could do was take a Sawzall and actually cut those bolts off and pretty much destroy that factory lower arm. We chose to use replacement arms from Rock Auto. They're just like OEM, maybe not as good, I don't know. These are doing just fine, they're not bent or anything. And I tested the lower ball joint that comes with the arms, prying up and down with a pry bar, and there's absolutely no play in it. So, you know, 50, 60,000 miles on that ball joint, no play. I think we're doing good. Now, when we put the new arms on, instead of going and getting factory cam bolts, we chose to use a set from SPC. These are supposed to not freeze up like the OEMs often do. Let's find out. I think we're in luck. Oh yeah, look at that. We are going to be able to get a perfect alignment out of this thing. And our cam tab gussets, these little tabs here on either side, they look like they're in good shape. They're not bent. And the back one spins too. Awesome. By turning those cam bolts, I was able to shift that arm forward a little bit out here because we do have a clearance issue back here at the body mount. So hopefully that'll give us plenty of clearance, and then the alignment tech will fine tune all of that for us. And again, I won't tighten these down all the way to torque specs until we have all the weight of the Forerunner, or I'm sorry, the FJ on the suspension. Now I can get the coilover back in. I cleaned off fairly well the surface here and up here in the hat, and also took these bushings out of the bottom, put some high pressure grease in there, and yeah, we're all set to go. I also cleaned off the threads on the wire wheel. Get all the old Loctite off. Come on, there we go. Get a top one going. And a little bit of blue Loctite. Now I'm going to leave the sway bar off on this side until I get the other side completely done. But other than that, we're looking really good on this side. The brakes still function and there's plenty of meat on the pad still. One thing I do want to mention is we put extended brake lines on the front when we did the lift. Turns out you don't need them at all. You don't need extended lines. In fact, these are a little too long. These are 2 inches longer than stock. We thought we needed it, but obviously we don't, because it's kind of, yeah, you really don't need it. This has some weird bends and it actually rubs up against the frame. I had to put some other plastic tubing around it to keep it from wearing a hole through the brake line. So as soon as we get around to it, I'm going to put some others stock length lines on here, and then we'll take care of that. So off to the other side. I got done tearing it all apart and putting it mostly back together already here on the driver's side. No big surprises. The upper arm, the bushings, just like the other side, are perfectly fine. The ball joint is still wonderful. The coilover, not leaking at all. There is a little bit more wear at the bottom joint down here where it connects to the lower arm, more so than the other side. Not anything that I should be concerned about right now, but something to keep in mind. The bottom ball joint on our Rock Auto lower arms, still in great shape. And the cam bolts on this side are also perfectly loose, so I'm going to get an awesome alignment on this. The only thing that I found, well, I found two things. First, where is it? Tie rod end is bad. Pulling up on it, there's quite a bit of play. So I have to get a new one. Unfortunately, today is New Year's Day, so I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow to try to find one at a parts store nearby. Other than that, I do have a lot of play in the needle bearing on the drive shaft going into the differential here. I have to replace that. I just ordered one online from East Coast Gear Supply. Hopefully it'll be here by the end of the week, and I'll get that in before I button up everything else. Due to the magic of video, it's 2 days later. I had to wait for some parts to come in. Turns out that I actually had a tie rod, a new one, underneath the bench in a parts bin. I did have to order the bushing for the differential from East Coast Gear Supply. It took a couple of days to get here. So we're back. I pulled the axle out, put that new bushing in. If you're interested in why that's done and how exactly it's done, I produced a video a little while ago. I'll put a link to that down in the video description. Axle's back in, got the sway bar links back on. Everything is pretty much buttoned up. Put some weight on it, then tighten up the bolts at the upper control arm and the lower control arm. Then we'll take a look at the suspension in the rear, see how that's doing. For shocks back here, we have the ToyTec Boss 2-inch. They're okay. They handle fine on the road. Off-road, they're fine. Nothing exceptional, but just okay. Now, we did have a problem with a shock back here, probably 3 years, 2.5, 3 years in. We came home one day after wheeling at our local off-road park, and there was a puddle of oil underneath the back here. At first, I thought it was an axle seal. Luckily, it was just a shock. It had blown the bottom of the shock right out. So on Monday morning, I called up ToyTec, told them what happened, sent them some pictures, and told them just, I want to buy a new shock. And they told me that, you know, it is past your 2-year warranty, but that should never have happened, and we want to send you a new shock, which that was awesome. Wasn't expecting that. So they sent me a new shock, and I also ordered a new shock for the other side, just so I'd have a matching pair the same age. But yeah, they've been holding up really good since then. No leaks or anything. The bushings are all still fine. For bump stops, this is the ToyTec spacer block for the stock bump stop. I don't like these. They're quite harsh. There's not enough cushion to them. Recently we went to Durabump stops on a 4Runner, and they work great, and I love them. It's a much softer cushion. What it is this is a big aluminum block that ToyTec uses just to make this space. For the Durabumps, this is all rubber, and it's a progressive dampening, so it kind of firms up more the more it's compressed, and they really take the jolt out. The Durabumps do. I really like them. Eventually we'll get rid of these things and put the Durabumps back here too. The springs are ToyTec's Super Flexi. They're standard heavy duty springs, and they do great. We don't carry a lot of weight on or in the back of this FJ, so they do good. If we were to carry more weight, I think we would go with what we have in the 4Runner, which are the ToyTec Super Flexi super heavy duty springs. I don't know what the spring rates are on it, I'm sorry. But they've been doing really good for us. Usually they come black, but I was feeling cool one day and painted them red. Back here we also have some sway bar links from Overland Custom Design. These are their standard adjustable with a heim joint on the bottom. This in the rear here is where it's really important to get a longer link than stock if you're lifted. And these are, I believe they're inch and a half longer than stock. And they're doing well. Like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of heim joints, but these seem to be holding up well. They don't squeak at all, but they do require that almost weekly maintenance of putting some oil on them. The lower links that we're running these are from SPC, and they just have the standard, they're not adjustable, they have a standard bushing at the ends, nothing real special. They are made of a heavier wall tubing though, that takes the bumps and the crashes much better than the stock lower arms. And up here you'll see we've got these little skid plates here for the lower links. I think those are from All Pro. Real simple, they just bolt on with the stock bolt that holds the link on. And that's pretty much all of our rear suspension. We're going to go through everything. I see the boots on the shocks are not on at the bottom. We'll have to try to fix that. I'm going to take the lower links off, inspect the bushings, make sure they're still in good shape. Our brakes, they're kind of getting a little low in the back end here, so that's going to be put on the list to do before we take it on any long trips this spring. Yeah, and just a good thorough inspection. I'll have to look at those upper links and make sure that those bushings are still in really good shape. But other than that, I think it's looking really good. Now the FJ here is not built out near as much as we have the 4Runner. The 4Runner has a whole lot going on underneath it. If you want to see it, and it's the same suspension as the FJ pretty much. It's changed a little bit during the years, but overall, same geometry, same parts, everything. So if you want to see more of what you can maybe do with your FJ, go look at our 4Runner videos on our suspension. We did a bunch. We'll try to provide some links at the bottom. If nothing else, just go to the 4Runner playlist on our channel and you'll find whatever you need. One thing I do want to mention before we dive into this and start taking things apart is we purposely don't have any adjustable panhard bar or links on either the FJ or the 4Runner. We do not like adjustable links at all, because what happens is the threads that hold that joint on, they wear out, and all of a sudden, boom, it comes apart. It happens all the time, especially if you don't get underneath there regularly and make sure that jam nut is torqued down properly. So, and you really don't need adjustable, to be honest with you. So I took the lower links off and inspected the bushings, and they look great, especially here at the axle. At the front, there's a little bit of wear, but for 50,000 miles, I think that we can probably get another 20, 30,000 miles out of the front before it would be beneficial to change them out. I took a look at the upper links, and these are all stock bushings, and you know that the Toyota stock bushings last forever. There's absolutely no wear that I can see on them at all. Everything is looking really good. Nothing's rusted through, thank goodness. And the springs are all seated properly. I did notice just now that I do have a broken spring back here. Right there. Well, that's not good. Luckily, I had some springs left over from the 4Runner when we upgraded that one to the extra heavy Super Duty flexi springs, and they're identical, so they went right in. Didn't have to buy new springs or anything. I don't know why on earth that other spring broke. It didn't rust through. I just don't know. And these springs here off the 4Runner actually have probably 30,000 extra miles than the 50,000 miles that were on the ones on the FJ. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal was with that. But everything on this side is just like the other side. The sway bar links are still good. Shocks are still wonderful. I got the boots back on the bottom here with some new zip ties. Thank God for zip ties, huh? The bushing on the lower link in the front is worn about the same as the other side. No big deal. I'm not going to worry about it until the next time I have everything apart back here. Upper link on this side is fine. We do have the extended brake lines back here, and they're doing okay, although we got some, and I can't remember where we got them from. Wherever it was, I don't suggest getting them from that company. There's steel braided lines, but then they have the plastic outer coating, and that outer coating is coming off. We have had really good luck with some extended lines that we've got from ToyTec. We have them on the 4Runner, and they hold up great. So yeah, be careful where you get your extended lines. But they're definitely necessary back here. If you have a longer travel suspension, you definitely need them. Now I'm going to go through everything, all the nuts and bolts, make sure everything is torqued down properly. We'll get the tires back on, put it on the ground, and then we'll do a really crude alignment with a carpenter's level and some string, and then we'll get it over to the alignment shop. So using a string and a carpenter's level, I got the alignment good enough to drive the 6 miles to the alignment shop. It was pretty far off, but it got me there safely. Now I got it home, up on some ramps, and now I'm going underneath it and double checking, triple checking the torque on all the bolts that we used for the alignment. And I also took a paint marker and marked the alignment point. So at a glance, if we think we threw something off, we can look underneath there and see if we actually did or not, and maybe even get it back to somewhat a good alignment using those marks. We take our vehicles, our 4Runner and the FJ, to a place that's fairly close by in a nearby town called Ray's Alignments. And we've been going there for the last few years now, and they're absolutely wonderful. They're used to working on lifted four-wheel drives, so that's a plus, and they're not afraid to tackle the adjustable upper arms either. And what's really nice is they'll go out of their way to make the adjustments that you're looking for, like the camber, caster, and with us, the clearance issue with the body mount back here. They do a wonderful job. Hopefully you can find yourself a shop that will treat you the same. So overall, as far as my review on the suspension, this ToyTec Boss 2.5s in the front, 2-inch in the back with SPC upper control arms, SPC lower links in the rear. The shocks and springs are okay. I'm pretty sure they changed shock manufacturers for these units. They're just okay. They're not the best. Now the Aluma series from ToyTec that we have on the 4Runner is absolutely wonderful. I can't imagine a better suspension for what we do. A lot of road driving and a lot of really rough wheeling with it. and it stands up really nice with that. I was a little disappointed seeing the cracked spring in the rear. I don't know what happened there. It didn't rust through. It looked more like a stress fracture that was maybe there from the forging. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things, I don't know. The SPC upper control arms, now these are the old ones. These are, 7 years old. And other than the ball joints going bad early, the rest of the control arms have been holding up very, very well. And the lower links in the rear, they're just fine after all these miles and years. Now, as always, thanks a lot for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button, consider subscribing to our channel. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram.